My parents kicked me out for stealing $10,000, let my brother replace me, and didn't know a hidden camera was watching. Hi, I'm James, 27, and last February, my parents kicked me out of the house for stealing $10,000. But they weren't ready for the hidden camera. The police officer looked like he was already halfway through his shift and emotionally done with humanity. Sir, the homeowners want you off the property, he said flatly, standing in the doorway of the house I had paid rent on for 3 years. He had one hand resting on his belt and the other holding a notepad he didn't plan on using. They're declining to press charges if you leave voluntarily tonight, he added. If you don't, we start a criminal investigation. I didn't flinch. I didn't steal anything, I said. Calm voice. Shaky hands in my hoodie pockets. He took $10,000 in cash from our safe. My mom screeched from behind him. She sounded like she was auditioning for an Oscar. It was the same voice she used when Publix ran out of oat milk. My dad stood off to the side, arms folded, jaw locked. He wouldn't even look at me. Tyler was on the couch, nursing a Gatorade like he just finished a triathlon. He didn't say a word, he just smirked. That little twitch of the lips that only I saw. That smug, microscopic smile that said, "Gotcha?" You want me out? I said, staring straight at my father. Fine. But you know I didn't touch your retirement stash. Just go, James, he finally muttered. We need the space. Tyler's got a baby coming. You're a single man. You'll be fine. That was it. Not even a pause. Not even fake conflict about kicking out the son who'd been helping pay their mortgage while working full-time and building a life. I was an easy sacrifice. Less messy than asking the golden child and his surprise family to figure it out. I didn't argue. I just nodded once and went upstairs. The cop followed behind me like I was a potential flight risk. I packed like I trained for this moment. Trash bags, duffel, laptop, documents, clothes, chargers. I stripped the bed. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I clicked into crisis mode, like I always did when Tyler won. The part that hit me hardest wasn't the betrayal. It was the planning. The strategic brilliance of it. They knew I was 3 months from putting a down payment on my first home. I'd been saving for years. Paying them rent, market rate. Mowing the lawn. Fixing their Wi-Fi. And now? Suddenly I was the thief. The manipulative son trying to force their hand. Their words. I dragged the bags down. My mom was already eyeing the walls, probably wondering where the crib would go. Don't come back, she snapped. You're dead to us. I didn't say goodbye. I got into my 10-year-old Civic and drove to a Motel 6 near I-95. Checked into a room that smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. I dropped the bags, pulled out my laptop, and opened the app. They thought they planned the perfect exit. But they forgot who I am. I work in cybersecurity. Paranoia isn't a flaw. It's literally my job. 6 months ago, when my debit card started mysteriously declining, and my favorite PS5 games vanished, I got suspicious. I didn't confront anyone. I bought a tiny motion-activated camera disguised as a USB charger and plugged it into the hallway upstairs. It faced my door. But it also saw my parents' bedroom door. And that afternoon, when I was at work and they were supposedly at Costco, it captured everything. Timestamp, 2:14 p.m. Tyler stepped out of his room, boxers and t-shirt, soda in hand. Calm. Casual. He walked into the master suite like he owned the place. 9 minutes later, he walked back out holding a thick white envelope. My dad's envelope. The one with the side job cash he kept hidden from the IRS. Tyler flipped through it, $100 bills flashing in the hallway light, whistled low, and looked directly at my door. He didn't go in. He didn't need to. He knew the accusation would be enough. And he was right. For now. I didn't send the video that night. I stared at it. I backed it up to 3 different cloud drives and saved it to a USB that now lived in my wallet. I even encrypted it, just in case someone tried to, accidentally, format my laptop again. But I didn't send it. Not to my dad. Not to the lawyer. Not to the cops. Not even to Aunt Carol, the family's unofficial intelligence agency. Because I knew something no one else in that house knew. They needed me to react. They needed a fight so they could feel justified. So they could say, "See? This is why we had to get rid of him." But I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. I was going to vanish. For the next 2 weeks, I lived in that crusty Motel 6 room. ate gas station sandwiches, took freelance gigs from hell. Then I found a month-to-month studio downtown. 1 room. No laundry. No AC. Thin walls and a view of the alley where raccoons screamed at 2 a.m. It was glorious. Because it was mine. No one banged on my door demanding I clean the gutters. No one asked why I didn't smile more. No one, accidentally, used my toothbrush. I stopped paying rent to my parents. Cancelled the recurring transfer. No more groceries dropped off. Because I live here too. I went full ghost. My expenses tanked, and my savings exploded. I was clocking in 80 hours a week between my day job and side work, grinding like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. 3 months later, I found a foreclosure on the other side of the city. 2-bedroom townhouse. Water damage. Horrifying kitchen. But the foundation was solid, and the price was stupid low. I made an offer. All cash. Closed in 21 days. Every night after work, I demoed drywall in a tank top and construction goggles. I lived off takeout and caffeine. I painted walls. Ripped up tile. Rewired light fixtures. And when it was done, when my little fortress finally stopped echoing, I sat on the floor with a beer and breathed. For the first time in my life, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like freedom. I didn't hear from them. Not once. No texts. No calls. Not even a lazy, "You good?" from Tyler. I became the villain in their story. The petty, jealous son who faked a robbery just to get attention. It didn't matter that it made 0 sense. It made emotional sense. And emotional sense always beats logic in families like mine. But the universe? The universe has a dark sense of humor. And its favorite method of communication? Aunt Carol. "James, honey," she whispered into the phone one Sunday afternoon. "I just got back from your mother's. Things are not good over there." I smiled. "Oh no. What happened?" "Well, Tyler and Jessica moved into your old room. But then she started complaining about the baby crying, so now they're in the master suite." I paused mid-bite of my overpriced sushi. "Wait. My parents are sleeping where?" "The guest room. Downstairs. On that fold-out sofa your dad's back hates." I laughed. "I'm serious," she said. "It's a circus." "Oh, and Tyler just bought a new truck." My chopsticks froze in midair. "A new what?" "Big OL black Chevy. Lifted. Shiny. Still has the temp tags. Said he got a signing bonus at his new job." "Tyler has a job?" "That's what your mom says. But your dad is freaking out about money. Apparently they're behind on property taxes." I leaned back in my chair, sushi forgotten. That money was gone. And they were still pretending I took it. They needed a new villain. And this time, they were going to try the legal route. The letter came 2 weeks later. A white envelope from some generic strip mall law firm, Miller and Brandt, LLP. Inside, a formal demand. $10,000 restitution for theft. $5,000 for emotional distress and legal fees. Pay in 14 days or face a civil lawsuit. I stared at the paper and exhaled slowly. They really did it. They actually thought I'd fold. They forgot what happens when the quiet one fights back. I didn't call the lawyer. I called my dad. He answered on the second ring like he'd been waiting. "So, you got the letter?" "No hello? No small talk. Just straight to business like we were closing on a timeshare deal." "I got it," I said, staring at the creased envelope on my kitchen counter. "You're suing me now? You left us no choice, James," he said, like he was explaining something obvious to a dense coworker. "We're struggling. The baby needs formula. Jessica's out of work. Property taxes are up. That money you took was our cushion." I gripped the phone tighter. "I didn't take it, Dad." "Stop lying," he snapped. "Just stop. We know it was you. Who else would it be?" I paused. Let the silence hang. "Tyler." There it was. The magic word. "Don't you dare defame your brother." He barked. "He's been helping us. He bought groceries last week. He's stepping up. He's a father now." "With what money?" Dad didn't respond. "So I did. Let's meet. Sunday. 2 p.m. At the house." His tone shifted. "Unless you're bringing a check, don't bother." "I'm not bringing a check," I said. "I'm bringing closure." And I hung up. Sunday arrived humid and gray, the kind of Florida afternoon where the air feels like soup. I pulled up to my childhood home for the first time in 6 months. The lawn was patchy. A faded inflatable ducky pool lay deflated in the front yard. The black Chevy truck was parked in the driveway like it owned the place, lifted, gleaming, still with the dealer's tags flapping. I knocked once and walked in. They were all in the dining room, like they'd staged a scene from a low-budget courtroom drama. Dad at the head. Mom to his right. Tyler bouncing his baby in his lap. Jessica beside him, looking exhausted and undercaffeinated. "Let's see the check," Tyler said without looking up. His voice was cocky, but his eyes flicked to my bag nervously. "I don't have a check," I said. "I have a laptop." "Then leave," Mom snapped, already on edge. "We'll see you in court. I'm calling the lawyer right now." "Great," I said, setting the laptop down on the table. "Just tell him to check his email first. I sent him a file about 30 seconds ago." "What file?" Dad asked, his forehead wrinkling. "Something exculpatory." I opened the laptop, turned the screen toward them, and pressed play. The room fell silent. There was no music. No narration. Just time-stamped footage. August 14th, 2:14 p.m. Tyler's bedroom door opening. Him walking out in boxers and a t-shirt. The soda can. The stroll to the master bedroom. My mom gasped. 2:23 p.m. Tyler exiting, envelope in hand. The same envelope from the safe. He thumbed through the hundreds like he was flipping pages of a magazine. Then he looked at my door, whistled, and disappeared into his room. The video ended. Tyler's face drained. He looked like someone had pulled the plug on his circulatory system. That's not what it looks like," he stammered. You asked me to grab it, Dad, remember?" "You told me to grab the cash for the landscapers." Dad stood up slowly. "I what?" You needed it. For. But Dad wasn't listening. He was staring at the screen. At the paused image of his youngest son, caught red-handed. "You lied to us?" he whispered. "You let us throw your brother out." Tyler flinched. "I was gonna pay it back. I had a plan. The truck, I needed it for work." "You bought that truck with my money?" Dad's voice was rising, unsteady. "You said it was a signing bonus." "I did it for the family," Tyler shouted, standing so fast the baby started to wail. "James doesn't need the money. He's hoarding it. Look at him. He's got a house and savings and freedom. I earned those things," I said quietly. "You stole." Dad turned to me, his eyes red. "James, we're so sorry." I didn't answer. I just shut the laptop, slid it back into my bag, and stood. "You'll hear from my lawyer regarding reimbursement for the false claim and defamation," I said. "And if I see my name on another envelope from a law firm, I'll sue for damages." "James, please," Mom said, standing. "We didn't know. We were misled. He tricked us." "No," I said. "You wanted to believe it was me. That's the difference." I turned to walk out. "Wait," Dad said. "Stay for dinner?" "Just stay. We'll talk. We'll fix this." "I have dinner," I said, already heading for the door. "You're really not going to forgive us?" Tyler shouted after me. "After all this? You'd let your family fall apart?" I paused in the doorway. Looked back at the people who raised me, who sacrificed me for convenience. "You did that part yourselves." I walked out into the thick Florida air, not angry. Not victorious. Just done. The silence in my car was different this time. It wasn't loaded. It wasn't fragile. It was just quiet. The kind of silence that settles into your bones and says, "You're done here." I didn't drive home immediately. I went to a diner. A trashy little place on the corner of State Road 7 with cracked vinyl booths and the best waffles this side of the Everglades. I ordered coffee, bacon, and a double stack. I sat in the booth for 2 hours, laptop bag beside me, letting the syrup soak and the adrenaline drain. They wanted an apology. They thought one awkward dinner and a sad "we didn't know" would undo a year of exile. What they didn't get, what people like that never get, is that trust doesn't come back just because you say sorry. Especially not when they never trusted you to begin with. I got home around 9. My house, greeted me with the smell of sawdust and lemon polish. I toed off my shoes, grabbed a beer, and collapsed onto my couch. I was halfway through a rerun of Mr. Robot when my phone buzzed. Aunt Carol. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Same result. Third time's the charm, apparently. I picked up. James? Oh my God! I just got off the phone with your father. She didn't even say hello. He is furious. I waited. They're selling Tyler's truck. Now I sat up. Seriously? They made him hand over the keys. Apparently it's underwater. He owes more than it's worth. I almost laughed. Of course he does. They told him to figure it out. Jessica and the baby can stay for now, but your dad said if Tyler steps foot in the house again, he's calling the cops. I whistled. That's harsh. He's sleeping in the truck. What? Walmart parking lot near the 24-hour gym off Route 9. That's what I heard. Apparently, Jessica's staying in the guest room with the baby, and your mom is trying to keep the peace, but your dad's lost it. I didn't say anything. Anyway, she continued, lowering her voice like we were being wiretapped. They want to know if you'll come for Easter. Easter? I blinked. Yes. Your mom said she'll make the roast. They want to apologize properly. I looked around my living room. The framed photos on the wall. The little cactus by the window. The tile I laid myself. The quiet. Tell them I'm busy. I said. With what? I'm putting in a garden. Aunt Carol paused. A garden? Yeah. Real roots. In real soil. She was silent for a beat. Then she sighed. They'll be sad. I'm not. I said. I'm finally not. I hung up. The thing about getting kicked out is, at first, you feel like you lost. You imagine them living peacefully, guilt-free, while you suffer. But the truth? They weren't peaceful. They were rotting in the lie they built to get rid of me. And eventually, lies collapse under their own weight. The camera caught a thief. But it revealed a much deeper truth. My family never believed in me. And now? They don't get to benefit from the man I've become. 2 weeks later, I was in my backyard digging holes for blueberry bushes when the doorbell rang. I assumed it was a package. Maybe the garden shears I'd ordered. Nope. It was my mother. Hair pulled back. Sunglasses on. Holding a grocery store bag like a peace offering. The kind she used to drop off when she was mad at Dad but still needed him to eat. I didn't invite her in. We stood on the front step like awkward neighbors. James, she started, voice trembling in that rehearsed, practiced way she used on HOA complaint calls. I know I'm the last person you want to see. Top 3. I said. But go on. She flinched, but pressed forward. I came to say I'm sorry. Truly. Deeply. What we did to you, it was wrong. I was wrong. And your father, well, he's still adjusting. To accountability? To the truth. She held out the bag. Inside, a Tupperware container of meatloaf, a half-eaten bag of kettle chips, and, of course, a plastic container of her famous deviled eggs. Like yolk and mayo could undo what she did. You kicked me out. I said, voice flat. You let me get dragged through the mud. You were ready to sue me. Over nothing. Tears welled up behind her sunglasses. We were scared. Jessica was panicking. The baby was colicky. Your father was working extra jobs, and Tyler was always loud. Always convincing. We wanted to believe the easy story. You wanted a reason to choose him. I said. She didn't deny it. Do you know what that felt like? I asked. To walk out of that house with my whole life in garbage bags. To know no matter what I said, you'd already picked a side? I do now. She whispered. And I hate myself for it. We stood there for a minute. The wind picked up. My wind chimes rattled like ghosts trying to speak. He's your son, she said finally. But so are you. And I want to make that right. You can't. Please. I looked down at the bag. At the eggs I used to fight Tyler for at every holiday table. At the woman who raised me but never defended me. Who let me drown while she folded laundry and nodded at lies. You can leave the eggs, I said. She did. Then she turned, walked down the steps, and drove off in her beige SUV. I took the bag inside. Set it on the counter. Didn't open it. Just stared at it like it might explode. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about estrangement. It doesn't end with an apology. Not when the damage is generational. Not when love was so clearly conditional. You can accept the gesture. But you don't owe them a seat at your table again. Especially when they burned it down in the first place. The eggs went in the trash. Not out of spite. Just a new rule I had: if it comes from a place that tried to break me, it doesn't go in my body. Simple. 3 days later, the next contact wasn't a person. It was a package. Small. Unmarked. Delivered to my mailbox like something from a spy movie. Inside was a flash drive. No note. No label. Just the drive and a folded receipt for a Red Lobster in Tampa. Timestamp: 2 weeks ago. 2 adult entrees, 3 Bahama Mamas, and a kid's mac and cheese. I knew that receipt. Jessica had posted a picture on her Instagram story. Caption: Cheddar Bay biscuits hit every time. So this wasn't random. I ran a scan on the drive. Clean. No malware. No viruses. Just one folder. Inside it? Bank statements. From my parents' joint account. 6 months of them. Each transaction was highlighted. There, in black and white, cash withdrawals, car payments, Amazon baby registries, DoorDash deliveries, and 6 separate installments to a place called Suncoast Behavioral Family Therapy. Then the kicker: 4 deposits labeled James M. Except I never got those. It looked like someone was laundering money under my name. No. Not laundering. Hiding. Making it look like I was still part of the system. Still receiving help. Still connected. This wasn't just theft. It was identity fraud. I checked the email the files were sent from. A burner Gmail with a name I didn't recognize: carrotcake4eva87@gmail.com. Classy. Then it hit me. Jessica. This was her insurance policy. She'd figured out Tyler's leash was short. That dad was one more lie away from going nuclear. So she made sure if the house burned down again, the only bridge not torched was the one leading to me. The only person in the family who had left and landed on his feet. The only one who could be useful. I stared at the drive for a long time. I could take this to the police. To the IRS. To a lawyer. But none of those things would change the fact that my name, was being used like a fake social security number in a scam to keep the household running. I didn't want revenge. I wanted it to stop. So I wrote an email. Short. Precise. Sent from an address I hadn't used in years. To carrotcake4eva87@gmail.com. Subject: Final notice. Jessica. I received your package. Nicely highlighted. You should really scrub metadata next time. You have 72 hours to remove my name from every account, registry, tax record, utility bill, or financial log you've attached it to without my consent. After that, I go public. No second warnings. No explanations. And if you ever let Tyler use my name again, I will bury you both in court filings and make sure your daughter grows up knowing exactly how the mess started. Best. James. I hit send. I closed the laptop. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't scared of them anymore. Not of Tyler. Not of their disappointment. Not of their story about me. Because I finally had one of my own. They say power shifts quietly. Mine arrived in the form of a PayPal notification. 3 days after I sent the email, I got an alert: you've received $1,000 from Tyler M. The note read: for misunderstanding. Please don't press charges. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my coffee. 2 hours later, Jessica texted me from a number I'd blocked last fall. It came through anyway. She must have gotten a new phone. Hey. Just want to say we're good now. Tyler's handling stuff. Thanks for being chill. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. That message wasn't for me. It was for the court of karma. The little ego bandage people send when they realize they're one subpoena away from explaining fraud to a judge. By the end of that week, Aunt Carol called again. James, honey, your father's asking about that camera. I didn't miss a beat. Which one? The one with the video. The, hallway incident. Why is he asking? Well, they're saying Tyler might have taken other things too. Checks. Jewelry. Your mother's wedding ring is missing. There's some theory involving a pawn shop and an Xbox. Sounds messy. It is. And now, get this, they want you to help install security cameras. I nearly dropped my phone. Wait. They want the thief to come back as head of security? Well, she whispered, they're saying you're the only one who really understands that tech stuff. That's when I realized the full shift had happened. I wasn't the scapegoat anymore. I was the expert. The only one who'd made it out, built a life, and didn't owe $1 to a predatory lender or a payday app. I told Carol I'd think about it. Then I went outside. My garden was finally sprouting, little green buds pushing through the mulch like proof that roots, when nurtured, do hold. I spent the weekend laying down stone pavers and wiring solar lights. That night, I sat out there with a beer, watching them blink on one by one, soft and steady. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was growing. I didn't need revenge. I didn't want reentry. I wanted peace. And I'd built it, one drywall patch, one freelance job, one cut-off bridge at a time. But the story wasn't quite over. Because the next knock on my door? Wasn't my mom. Wasn't Tyler. It was my father. He was wearing a button-up shirt tucked into faded jeans like he thought looking presentable would shave off the last 9 months of silence. I didn't open the screen door right away. "Hi, James," he said, trying for casual. His voice cracked. "You've got a nice place here." I stared at him. No smile. No invitation. "I drove by a couple times," he admitted, scratching the back of his neck. "Wasn't sure if I should stop. Your mom didn't want me to come, but I figured I owed it to you. To say it myself." He paused, waiting for me to help him. I didn't. "I'm sorry." Still didn't open the door. "You want to come in?" I finally asked, voice neutral. He exhaled like I just handed him a glass of water in the desert. "Thank you." He stepped inside and looked around, visibly stunned. Like he couldn't quite believe I had a full kitchen. Hardwood floors. Art on the walls. That I'd done all this alone. "Wow. You really..." He trailed off. "I live," I said. "That's all." We sat at the dining table, the one I'd built myself out of reclaimed pine. I didn't offer him coffee. "I was wrong," he said after a moment. "Not just about the money. About you. I've been wrong for a long time." Now he was finally looking at me. No bravado. No excuses. "You were never like Tyler." And that scared me. Because Tyler's problems made sense. We knew what to do with them. But you kept showing up. Quiet. Consistent. You never needed much, and I guess I resented that. That I didn't ask for more? I asked, brow raised. He nodded slowly. "Yeah. Because I couldn't give it. So I told myself you didn't want it." We sat there in the weight of that. "I lied to myself," he said. "And when the money disappeared, I knew. I knew it wasn't you. But I let your mom convince me otherwise. I let myself believe it. Because it was easier. Because it made sense. In the warped math of that house, it made sense." He looked down at his hands, like they might say something wise if he stared long enough. "I'm not asking you to come back," he said finally. "I wouldn't if I were you. But I needed to say this, in your home, face to face." Silence. Then he reached into his back pocket and slid a check across the table. $15,000. "Everything we owe you. Plus legal fees. And then some." I stared at the paper. Not the amount. The signature. His name. I didn't touch it. "You think this fixes it?" I asked. "No," he said instantly. "This just makes me slightly less of a bastard." I almost smiled. "You'll probably never trust me again," he said. "And I don't blame you. But if there's ever a chance, for something. A conversation. A walk. A text. I'll be there." He stood. "I'm not proud of what I did," he added. "But I am proud of who you are." And I needed to say that before it's too late. Then he left. Just like that. No manipulation. No guilt trip. Just a father finally showing up with empty hands and an open mouth. I didn't cry. But my hands shook when I picked up the check. Not because I needed the money. But because, for the first time, it was mine. Unattached. Unconditional. Unearned in the best way. Freedom has a price. And they finally paid it. I didn't cash the check. Not right away. It sat on my fridge for a week, held up by a magnet shaped like a grumpy cat that said nope. Every time I walked past it, it stared at me like it knew what I was thinking. Does accepting this mean I forgive them? Does it mean I'm letting them back in? It didn't. Forgiveness and boundaries can live in the same house, as long as the doors stay locked. I finally deposited it on a Monday. Put half toward the mortgage principal. The other half into a savings account I labeled emergency exit. Not because I planned to run again, but because I would never be cornered like that again. Later that week, I got an email from a new client, a small law firm needing cybersecurity consultation. One of the partners? The same lawyer who sent me the demand letter months ago. The subject line read "Small world, isn't it?" I took the gig. Charged them double. Meanwhile, word got around. Tyler had moved out. Again. This time, it wasn't voluntary. Jessica stayed behind with the baby and a job at a preschool. She was trying, I'll give her that. She even emailed me once to say thank you for not destroying them when I had the chance. I didn't reply. Not out of pettiness. Out of peace. The truth was, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't anything. I'd moved beyond it. They could orbit each other in that house like dying stars, fighting about bills and bedtime and how many eggs were left. I was on a different planet. The next month, Aunt Carol sent me a photo. Easter dinner. A table of 4 smiles, plastic tablecloths, Tyler's empty seat glaring in the background. No one asked where I was. No one expected me. That was the shift. I was no longer missing from the family. I was separate. And they were learning that meant something very different. It meant I was no longer available for damage control. No longer responsible for keeping the peace. No longer willing to carry their guilt in my chest like a second heart. I was building something better. Something stable. Something mine. That weekend I finished planting the last row of tomatoes in my backyard. The sun was setting, and everything smelled like earth and beginnings. A neighbor passed by with her dog and waved. "Looking good over there," she said. "Trying." I smiled. "Little by little." She grinned. "It's not trying. It's growing." It was late June when the envelope came. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the script immediately. My mother's cursive, loopy and practiced like someone who still believed stationery mattered in an apology. I let it sit unopened for 2 days. I wasn't afraid of what it might say. I was afraid it would say everything right. Because sometimes, forgiveness isn't held back by anger, it's held back by fear. Fear that if you let the drawbridge down, the army marches in again. On the 3rd day, I opened it. Just 1 page. "James, I know I've lost the right to call myself your mother. I don't expect a response. I just wanted to say thank you for how you handled everything. You could have burned this house down. Instead, you walked away. Your father and I are trying. It's not easy. Tyler doesn't speak to us. Jessica moved in with her sister. The baby is beautiful, though. Looks a little like you did. I still make your room up sometimes. I know that's foolish. But it helps. I hope you're happy. Truly. Love always. Mom." I folded the letter neatly and placed it in a drawer I rarely opened. Not out of sentiment, just out of respect for what it was, an echo of someone who finally understood the weight of what she threw away. That weekend I had friends over. Real friends. People I'd chosen, not inherited. We grilled in the backyard, under the string lights I'd hung last fall. Music played. Beer flowed. Someone brought their dog. It tried to eat one of my new pepper plants and I didn't even care. We talked about everything: jobs, breakups, dumb movies, good coffee. No drama. No guilt-tripping. No landmines hidden in the laughter. Just real people. A real life. At one point, I stepped inside to grab more drinks, and I caught my reflection in the sliding glass door. And for the first time, I didn't see a survivor. I saw a man. Not broken. Not bitter. Just rooted. 2 months later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something about the area code, same as where I grew up, made me answer. "Is this James Miller?" a cautious voice asked. "Speaking. This is Officer Reyes with Hillsborough County PD. I'm calling in regard to a report you filed last year regarding a false accusation of theft." I blinked. "Okay. Your name came up in a connected case. Tyler Miller's being investigated for multiple counts of fraud. There are some financial irregularities tied to accounts that were in your name. We're just confirming some details." I let out a breath. "How bad is it?" "Worse than we thought," she said. "Looks like he used your name and your email for 2 car insurance policies, a credit application, and something related to an LLC. Did you authorize any of that?" "No," I said. "Absolutely not." She sighed. "Didn't think so. He's not very good at covering his tracks. We've already got 2 complaints from other parties. Looks like you're not the only one he burned. What happens next? We'll need a formal statement, maybe in person. If you're willing. I agreed. When I hung up, I sat there at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at my coffee. The sun hadn't even come up yet, but I knew Tyler's house of cards was falling. And it had nothing to do with me. I wasn't the hammer. I wasn't the fire. I was just done. That was the beauty of walking away. You let people destroy themselves without lifting a finger. I gave my statement the next week. Clean, professional. No drama. Officer Reyes was kind. Efficient. She asked if I wanted to be notified about updates. I said no. I already knew how the story would end. Not in an arrest. Not in a big family reunion where Tyler wept and apologized and we all shared a pie. No. It would end like all lies do. Quietly. In courtrooms and creditor calls and angry letters no one reads. And I'd be home. In my garden. Living the life they never thought I could build. Fall came. In Florida, that mostly means the humidity drops from suffocating to bearable, and your power bill stops resembling a car payment. But in my backyard, it meant something else entirely. The tomatoes ripened. The basil took over the raised bed like it was auditioning for a mob movie. Even the lemon tree I planted out of spite, yes, I planted a lemon tree purely out of spite, sprouted its first stubborn fruit. I was outside trimming herbs when I heard it. A car door slam. I glanced through the fence slats. It was Tyler. Standing on the sidewalk, looking up at my house like he wasn't sure it was real. He looked rough. Gaunt. Beard overgrown, shirt wrinkled, jeans hanging off his frame. Like rock bottom had hit him and kept bouncing. I stayed where I was. He didn't move closer. Just stood there, hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels like a kid waiting outside the principal's office. I'm not here to fight, he said finally. Or lie. Or ask for anything. I didn't answer. I wanted to see it. What you built. Still I said nothing. He gestured toward the lemon tree. Is that real? I thought those were fake. I kept trimming basil. I messed everything up, he said quietly. Jessica left. Took the baby. I'm couch surfing. Working delivery apps. Everyone's mad at me. Dad won't talk to me. Mom texts like I'm dead. I plucked a leaf. Crushed it between my fingers. Let the smell fill the air. I know I don't deserve anything from you, he added. But I thought maybe. I don't know. Just seeing you. Seeing all this. It makes me realize how far off track I got. Still nothing from me. Anyway, he said, voice cracking. That's all. I'll go. He turned. Took one step. Then I spoke. You said I hoarded everything? He froze. You said it wasn't fair that I had a job, savings, peace. You said I didn't deserve what I worked for. He didn't turn around. I kept my voice calm. Even. You wanted my life without living it. You wanted what I built without the nights I spent exhausted and lonely in a motel room after being exiled from my own family. I know, he said. I do. Good, I said. Because I'm not giving you anything. Silence. Then, softly, he replied, I wouldn't take it if you did. He walked away. Didn't look back. Didn't ask for a thing. And I didn't stop him. Because sometimes healing doesn't look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like watching someone walk away empty-handed and not rushing to fill their hands out of guilt, or history, or shared blood. I harvested my basil. Went inside. Made pasta. Ate it at the table I built, in the home I owned, with no one expecting anything from me. For once. It was enough. 2 weeks later, I got an email from my father. Subject line, estate planning. That alone should have been enough to send it straight to trash. But curiosity won. The body of the message was short, almost clinical. James, we're updating our will and would like to include you as a beneficiary again. Your mother insisted I reach out. There's no expectation of a response. Just wanted you to know the offer is there. Hope you're well. Dad. No apology. No warmth. No acknowledgement of what they did. Just here's a slot in our financial future. Would you like it back? I closed the laptop. I didn't respond. Because I knew what that was. It wasn't love. It wasn't healing. It was logistics. Guilt wrapped in legal language. They had finally seen the long game. Tyler wasn't going to be their savior. Jessica was gone. The baby wouldn't be paying their mortgage in 30 years. They needed someone dependable to pin their legacy to, and suddenly, the black sheep looked like a much better investment. No, thank you. My legacy wasn't going to be a footnote in theirs. That night, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine and reread something I wrote in my phone notes the day I moved into the motel, when everything was falling apart. The only thing more dangerous than being hated is being needed by people who don't love you. I had needed to see it written down then. And now, I needed to remember it. So I replied. Not to the email. To myself. I pulled up that note and added. The only thing more powerful than walking away is never looking back. That was the final severance. Not some dramatic confrontation. Just a quiet, private decision to never again give them the power to write me into or out of anything. Family isn't blood. It's who shows up for you when you're down. And who stays gone when you've made it clear they don't belong in the next chapter. I didn't burn the bridge. I just built a life on the other side of it. Thanksgiving came and went. I made roasted chicken instead of turkey, just to be petty. A friend brought over sourdough stuffing, another brought a pie, and we ate on my patio under string lights while jazz played low on a Bluetooth speaker. At one point, someone asked, "So, your family, what's the story there?" I smiled, took a sip of wine, and said, "They're compost." The table cracked up, and that was it. No heavy story. No TED Talk on trauma. Just a single sentence that told the whole truth. Compost. Things that had to rot for something better to grow. I hadn't heard from Tyler again. Not a word since the day he stood outside my fence like a ghost trying to haunt a house that was no longer his. Jessica sent a Christmas card. Just her and the baby. No return address. Just a scribbled note. She asks about you. Thought you should know. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care. But because I cared enough not to pretend. That little girl deserved a clean slate, not a half-uncle wrapped in unresolved drama and digital footprints. I hoped Jessica figured it out. I really did. But I wasn't going to be a band-aid for a life Tyler had shredded. By New Year's I had more plants than furniture. The garden had expanded to the side yard. A neighbor gave me cuttings from her fig tree. Another offered to trade herbs. I said yes to both. Funny how quickly things grow when you stop begging people to water you. Sometimes I'd still get that ache. That weird phantom ache in your chest when you remember something soft about someone who turned out hard. My mom humming in the kitchen. My dad falling asleep with a book on his chest. Tyler, 10 years old, sitting on the curb with me after we scraped our knees playing street hockey. You don't unlove people. But you do outgrow the versions of yourself that needed their love to mean more than it did. And when that happens, you stop looking backward. Not out of pride. But because the view ahead is just finally, better. Spring arrived quietly. My lemon tree bloomed. The garden was full of bees, life, and not one trace of the past. That's when I got the voicemail. "Hey James. It's your mom. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted to let you know, your dad's in the hospital. Nothing critical, yet. But I figured you should know. He keeps asking about you." She paused. "Anyway. I hope you're doing okay. Really. We love you. I know that might not count for much anymore." She hung up without asking me to call back. I didn't. Not because I didn't care. But because I knew where that road led. I'd walked it blindfolded for years, always hoping the ending would be different. It never was. So I stayed home. Watered my plants. Sat on my porch with a book and a breeze and silence that felt earned. That's the thing no one tells you. You can miss someone and still know they're not good for you. You can wish things had been different, and still choose not to go back. That's not cruelty. That's growth. I didn't go to the hospital. And he didn't die. He recovered, went home, and, according to Aunt Carol, started physical therapy 3 times a week. That was it. No miraculous reunion. No bedside confessions. No last-minute rewrite of our story. Just life. Moving forward. Without me in their orbit. I wasn't angry. I didn't wish them pain. I didn't hope for some grand reckoning. That's not peace, it's a prison with prettier walls. Peace is what I had now. A house I paid for. Quiet I didn't apologize for. A garden that bloomed like it knew the worst was over. One morning, I stood barefoot in the dew-damp grass, holding coffee, watching bees drift lazily around my basil, and I realized something. They didn't break me. They freed me. From the version of myself that needed to be chosen. The son who waited for recognition. The brother who begged for fairness. I was no longer surviving their absence. I was thriving in my presence. And that was worth more than anything they could have left me in a will. That was the life I built when the truth came out. And I never looked back.